A reading from Luke 10:38-40. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." Mark 10:46-48. When they came to Jericho, as Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man, Bartimaeus, which means son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet, but he shouted all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Mark 10:13. People were bringing little children to Jesus for him to place his hands on them, but the disciples rebuked them.
Another cold brew? Don't mind if I cold do. Nailed it. I am loving this machine that Charles brought in.
It is nice. The trick is to let the coffee warm up to room temperature. I'm already on my second cup.
This is my third.
Stop! You're drinking too much!
Whoa, what's going on? Charles, why are you talking so slow?
I'm not. I'm normal. We're all normal.
Oh my God, if you're not going slow, that means we're going fast. Are we going fast? Can anyone tell if we're going
I
fast?
don't think we're going fast at all in any way whatsoever. I feel like we're going slow in every way whatsoever. Captain, how do you feel?
Great, excellent, amazing. I feel better than I've ever felt in a moment in my entire life.
So we're all fine?
Yep.
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 Yep. Yep. Yep. Yep. Yep.
The pace at which we move through life is a form of violence to the other. I'll say that again. The pace at which we move through life is a form of violence to the other. I know it feels like a bit of a roller coaster to start things out. You know, we get to laugh at a sitcom clip and then hard to digest little quote from the author Richard Beck in the book Stranger God. But where I see those tying together is that we don't mean to do violence. We don't mean to harm others through our pace of life, but that is what happens. But we are much more likely to say and ask why everyone else is going slow than to ever question that, hey, maybe we are going too fast ourselves. So I get the chance to share with you this morning. Mike just finished up a series a few weeks ago called "It's Not You, It's Me," right? And it was all about the things that come up in our life, that the responses, the reactions that we have that prevent us from really loving well. And he used the teaching in Matthew 7, like Jesus' kind of famous little line about not removing the speck from your neighbor's eye when you have planks in your own. And the idea behind it is not that the speck is unimportant, but that our reactions, our responses, or even the very way that we see is the more important issue to deal with first. And so I knew I was going to get to preach this weekend for a while, and I spent some time just sort of reflecting. Where in my life, or when in my life, have I had plank-sized reactions to speck-sized problems? And for me, the theme that kept coming up was this theme of hurry. Now, a little clarity, I'm going to use the word hurry and hurried to mean more of the internal stuff that's going on in us, right? It's not necessarily connected to the external circumstances, but it's how we feel rushed on the inside, right? And maybe you can relate to it. I've had plenty of times in my life where I've had things stacked on another. I've had places to go, things to do, stuff to accomplish, and I can tackle them without feeling that real sense of being hurried on the inside. And conversely, I've had times in my life where there wasn't as much going on, and yet I made it from thing to thing just feeling that kind of anxious sense of rushing, of hurriedness. So sometimes it might be related to our external circumstances, but not always. So the helpful way maybe to think about it, I've heard this from every basketball coach I've ever played for. I've said it myself as a coach. It comes from the legendary coach John Wooden. And he says to be quick, but not in a hurry, right? Or ways that we would say it is in basketball, you want to be able to play fast, but not in a hurry. Right? So there's a distinction between it. And in basketball, every level that you play, the speed of the game is just faster. It just picks up. High school plays a lot quicker than junior high. College plays a lot faster than high school. The pros play a lot faster than college. And so the goal of players, the role of a coach is to try to help develop your players, to be able to play at that speed without feeling rushed on the inside. Right? Because when players are hurried, they're prone to mistakes. They turn the ball over more. They rush shots. They miss passes that are open. And a compliment to really good basketball players is to say that the game slows down for them. It doesn't mean that they're playing any slower, right? They're able to play at the same speed or the fast pace as everybody, but internally they're not shaken up. They can process stuff without feeling rushed or hurried. And so I think that's a little distinction I want to work with this morning, right? It might be related to our external circumstances, but not always. But times of hurry or hurriedness, at least in my life, are times that I have responded or reacted or not seen in a very loving way, right? I've had a plank-sized reaction to a speck-sized problem, okay? All right, so that's pretty much the sermon. So I knew I was going to do this for a while. Record time, best one yet. I knew this was going to happen for a while, and this was kind of the framework that came in mind a little over a month ago. We left on vacation at the end of June. We got back in the beginning of July. So I'm like, I knew that this was the theme, what I was going to talk about, and I didn't need to write it until after vacation, but I wanted to make sure to have enough bones to it to go with it. So then, as maybe luck would have it, maybe it's divine providence, maybe it's something that God is trying to teach me. We had a pretty epic trip in the airport trying to come back from Seattle that really kind of shined that light on it's not you, it's me, right? It's the ways that I responded wasn't the best. Okay, so now word of warning, this might get to a place of a little TMI, so if you leave, I won't be offended. And to set the stage, right? So I'm not typically an anxious person. Right? I don't get nervous about most things. I'm not afraid of flying. I'm not claustrophobic. I'm not afraid of heights. But what I do get really anxious about is airport security. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. It doesn't make any sense. I could get to the airport 24 hours early. I will feel the exact same as if I'm there 30 minutes early and rushing through. I will feel this anxiousness until I make it through line. Right, once we're through, I'm good. The plane could show up, the pilot's like, hey, we only got one wing today, but we're going to try to make it. I'm like, cool, we'll roll with that. But as long as I'm through security first, okay? So when we get to airports, right, if I'm there by myself, I'm just trying to make it through security as fast as possible. That's my agenda, that's my goal, that's where I have to be, that's the destination. Everything else is cool. But if you're flying with me, you might become an object or an obstacle in the way, then I need to pull you along to make sure that happens. Okay, so bear with me. Here we go. It was July 4th. We are in Seattle. We left with plenty of time to make it to the airport. Okay, we didn't know what traffic was going to be like, so we added a little bit of time there. We didn't know how busy the rental car place was going to be. We added a little bit of time there. We didn't know how busy the airport was going to be. We added a little bit of time there. So we get up nice and early. We pack up. We leave, and there's zero traffic on the road. And we get to the rental car place and we drop it off, and it is like scary efficient. Like it feels like you're a part of a gang boosting cars. Like we just jump out with our stuff, toss the keys, and the employee takes off to like strip it for parts or something. We make it to the airport. We've got 3.5 hours before our flight leaves. We don't have any checked bags. The boarding passes are on our phones. We just go straight to security line. Nothing, like what could go wrong in this situation? We're good. And so we get to line, and there's the little like line counter, 30-minute wait that we could see above TSA. And so we get in line, and I'm watching that, and we're in line for 2 minutes when my oldest says, Dad, I'm not feeling good. So I think I really need to go to the bathroom, but I'm not feeling great. And so my initial loving response is, can you hold it for 28 more minutes? He's like, no, I really got to go. So then my next reaction is, fine. So we have to like turn around in line, right? A line that is designed to only go one direction, right? It funnels people to one place like cattle. You can't go back against the grain. It's not set up for that. So we have to, run over everybody, meander against people. We get our way out. We stop at a bathroom, which is not nearby the TSA line, but whatever. And we're like, well, might as well have everybody stop, right? Let's Let's clear this out right now. No more of this. Everybody stop. Everybody go to the bathroom, and then we'll head back to the line. So we do that. We gather the troops. We get into line. Time number 2. Not our last time that this is going to be. We get into the TSA line. Another 30-minute wait still. We're in there for about 3 minutes. We make it a couple loops around. And my middle son now, and he has had that look, this like, he's kind of like holding it in. And he's kind of like looking down. And then you see the hands go to the mouth. Yes, you know exactly what it was like. And so we know we have seconds. Like, it's like, we got to get out of here. There's no time to go back against the line. So I just start taking the ropes off the things, which I don't know if that's even legal. And that's like the only thing keeping people in the airport from descending into just gladiator-type chaos. And so we're splitting outside of lines. There's like 4 lines of people we're trying to come up against. And nobody moves. Nobody pays attention to us. Side note, this entire story, it's going to get worse, by the way. Nobody stops and asks us once. Like, nobody pays any attention to us. Are you okay? Anything we can help? Nothing. So we make it out the one line, we make it out the other, and we see a trash can, and we're heading towards it. And unfortunately, he doesn't quite make it, right? Elvis has left the building. There's no coming back from this. Stuff comes up and out before we clear out the last line. So unfortunately, all over some poor woman's dress. And in our defense, she could have moved, okay? Like, everybody was just like, what? You're rushing in a hurry. What am I supposed to do? So we make it out. We make it to a trash can. Finish that, gathering our stuff, trying to keep the troops together, whatever. And we start walking back to the bathroom. Mind you, this poor woman does not get out of line. So she just keeps going, right? This is just what airports are. So I'm not stopping. She just goes through. So I really want to hear her story sometime, if that were to be the case. But anyways, so we go to the bathroom. So what is this? This is our second trip to the bathroom. And clean everybody up. And we're sitting there off to the side, and we're kind of, let's take a few deep breaths. Let's get everybody gathered, and let's try and make this happen again. Right? Mind you, I'm still sort of internally pacing, maybe externally pacing too, trying to get us like, hey, let's just keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. So we rally the troops, we walk a few minutes to get into line, because we can't go back and face those people again. Once you throw up on somebody, you don't want to see them again, so we have to go to a different line now. Further away from our ending gate destination, that'll come up later. So we get into this. This is our third try through line. We're gathering everybody. We think we're good. And we get into line. This one's only like an 18-minute wait. Okay, so I'm like, okay. Unfortunately, we only make it in line for 1 minute. So we get to make it a bunch of those, a bunch of the ropes, because there's no people there yet. And then my oldest just stops, hands over the mouth, and then he just drops on the floor, hands and knees, and just starts crawling out, right? Which is exactly the type of sanitation that we teach our kids. It's a wonderful environment. So he does make it outside of line before stuff comes up. But only by about 6 inches. So it's on the floor, not on a person, so progress. So we gather him, we get everybody back together, out of line again, stop at the bathroom one more time. And at this point, Sarah Beth and I have no idea what do we do? We've never had any sort of experience like this. I don't know how to process this situation. I just know I'm trying to get all these people through that security line. So we're like, okay, well, we probably just need to gather again. So there's nowhere to sit, right? Airports, everything's on the other side, right? All the restaurants, all the places to sit and charge your phone, everything's through there. We are in the drop-off zone, right? So there's no seats. So we go back to the check-in area, we find a spot, we get kind of folks gathered around, we're sitting down. I should say everybody else is sitting down. I'm pacing, right? I have an agenda. I need to move people along. They are getting in the way. We need to get home. And so I'm saying super, super helpful things. Like, guys, if we just make it through security, you can throw up all that you want on the other side. You could spend 2 hours in the bathroom for all I care. Let's just, hold it together. And I'm starting to treat this situation like it's intentional in the airport, right? They're sort of, it's a coordinated attack on my agenda. They're tag teaming back and forth, right? So that's a little bit of what it's feeling like. So I'm not handling it well, right? My wife, on the other hand, is wonderful. She's sitting with them. I'm curious why you're feeling this way. And meanwhile, I'm pacing around, so while she's learning about them, I'm learning that, you know what, if we miss our flight, it's going to be a short 32-hour drive. I'll call off work the next day. We'll get a rental car and be home by the end of the weekend, maybe. I'm contingency planning, still incapable of understanding where my kids, what they might be feeling, what they might be going through, right? I cannot see them as people in this moment. I'm not extending grace to them. They are obstacles, and I'm just trying to pull stuff along. So we're like, okay, well, we're going to keep trying, until that flight takes off. Then we can start contingency. So we get into line. If you're keeping track, that's time number 4 into the TSA line. And I talked about the coordinated effort thing, so now the boys had their thing. So now I think they tag in my daughter, right, the youngest. And so she has a very different tactic, right? So she's not feeling great. She doesn't want to fly. She's kind of just done with it. So tears, crying, loud, and just stiff as a board. So I very lovingly spend the next 25 minutes going, okay, take a move feet here, set her down, grab the bag, and then people move forward, pick her up, straight as a mannequin, set her down, grab the bag, a few more minutes, 25 minutes, but we make it to the end, we check all our stuff, we make it through security. I'm immediately starting to feel better. We find some seats, we sit down, little congratulations, everybody, we did it. What could possibly go wrong now? This is great. So back to the middle son, Finley, he feels like he's going to get sick again. So this is another trip to the bathroom. I think that makes time number 4. This time he does get sick, although it's not quite in public, which is great. Although he comes out needing to change his clothes, if that tells you anything. Luckily, we didn't check our bags. All our carry-on stuff is right there. We take care of that. So now we're like, okay, we get everybody, gathered again, rally the troops. We're going to just try to make it to our gate, right? Because we shamed ourselves from going through the, TSA line that was closest. We're now on the opposite end of the airport from where our gate departs. And so we finally get everybody together. We're going to make this happen. We can take a break when we get there. And if you've been to airports before, right, that right when you get through TSA, there's usually a main walkway, and everybody is trying to get somewhere, right? It's sort of like a pedestrian Autobahn. The rule is you go as fast as you can without crashing. That's how that operates. So we get out in the middle. We start walking probably a little too fast because my daughter just stops, middle of the Autobahn, wide base, very dramatic, all over the floor. So that makes kid number 3, what is that, time number 5 now. So then bathroom trip number 5 comes afterwards. Sarah takes her to the bathroom. The boys are carrying her stuff off to the side. I'm guarding the area in the middle of the floor because people don't stop, right? Nobody's phased at all. They don't miss a beat. It's just I'm just going to keep going that way and walk right around it. So I'm kind of trying to guard this area. I'm trying to flag down an employee. It takes a few minutes. I finally see somebody. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm sorry. My daughter got sick in the middle of the floor here. Is there somebody that can come clean it up? No joke. The employee goes, I don't know, man. Looks around, grabs a caution wet floor sign, places it right there and says, somebody will get it later, and walks off, right? That's their standard operating procedure. That's how they handle stuff. Daughter finally gets out of the bathroom. We gather everybody up together. We're like, okay, rules of the road. We will stay to the far right, and we will just plod along at whatever pace we're capable of doing so. And so we all of our stuff together, we're making our way to our gate looking like, a group from a zombie movie, right? Not the zombies, the people that have gotten infected though, and they're starting to turn quickly. So you're just watching the life drain out of their face. That's us. So we're, making our way. We finally get it to our gate. They have started boarding at this point, right? So this has been the last 3 hours. We get to our gate. There's got about a half hour still before we have to get on, but they started boarding. So we're like, you know what? Let's take another bathroom trip. Right? Let's make it an easy half dozen here. Let's just try to gather everybody up one more time. And so I stay with the stuff, and one of the kids, they're about to take some of the others, goes to the restroom. Well, the bathrooms at the gate that we are at are out of order. So now they have to walk several minutes down the hallway to the other bathrooms. So they come back. Now we're at 15 minutes or so before, not boarding, before departure. So I talk to my son, Finley, and I say, hey, bud, you need to go to the bathroom. And he says, no, but I'm thirsty. And I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense because you just expelled all of your fluids all over the airport. So there's probably nothing left there. So I'm like, okay, let's go walk to the other bathrooms and see if we can refill the water bottles, right? Because you go through security and you can't have water, so we just have a bunch of empty water bottles. So we go to where the working bathrooms are, only to find that the water stations are out of order. So now we start walking back. I don't know where we're at, 10, 15 minutes still before departure. And against every sort of fiber of my being, I'm like, well, we have to stop at the airport inconvenience store, right? And it just was so painful. I grabbed the bottle of water that was I think it was $47. And I go to the self-checkout area, and then this robot has the audacity to ask me if I will pay 50 cents for a grocery bag. I'm like, of course I'm not paying 50 cents for a grocery bag. Do you know the kind of morning that we've had? I'm overpaying way too much on water. Like, I can't believe that you're going to add salt to the wound, insult to injury, and ask me if I'm going to pay 50 cents for a freaking grocery bag. And as I go to hit no, there's some voice inside of me. I don't know if it's a gut feeling, if it's the Holy Spirit, but it says, hold on. Based off the morning we had, a plastic bag might come in handy. So, sure enough, 50 cents, plastic bag. I hand my son the water bottle, let him take a drink, and then in my best Wayne's World expression, hand him the bag. Here, if you're going to spew, spew into this. And so I bring the bag with us. We head back to our gate, and our group is up. Like, people are in line. We are boarding. We're not even back 2 minutes before he has to use said bag, making it the best 50 cents I think I've ever spent. And I learned, and sorry that this is gross, I learned that while you can't take water through TSA, you can take puke on a plane as long as it's in a bag. So I know that there's a lot of judgment happening. I can see it. I can feel it. I'm pretty sure this was not virus-related, although I'm not a doctor, so sorry about all of that. And one of the reasons is because the flight home was one of the best flights we've ever had. Everybody fell asleep, but me, but that was fine. Everybody fell asleep for the first hour and a half, no turbulence. They woke up and felt immediately better, right? My son was pounding orange juice and cheese cubes. That can't be good for your stomach in that situation. Totally fine. We get home, we get to the airport, we get our van, we're driving back, they're like, let's stop at McDonald's. I'm like, how possible? How is that possible? So they were feeling immediately better afterwards. But that was our kind of traumatic experience. We made it home, and now I get the therapy of sharing it with you. So thank you. But here's what I share, right? You can't write it. It was just the external circumstances were something else, right? And I knew I was going to talk about hurry and rush and how that gets in the way of us loving people. That was before this experience. But that's exactly what it is, right? So while there are sort of, outlandish external circumstances that I hope never happen to anybody else or to us again, that really wasn't what was the issue that caused in me, right? I had my own agenda. I had my own places to be. I was dealing with kind of my own stuff. And so in those moments, I was not able to deal with the interruptions in any sort of loving, compassionate way, right? It was, we need to keep moving. We need to move forward. We need to move along. My reaction, my response was not to be able to see the people that I love the most and spend the most time with in my life. I was not able to see their humanity, their needs in those moments, right? It was about what that brought up in me. And I think that's a common arena with hurry. Language we use in my house a lot of times is we would say our cup is full, right? Sarah Beth and I are coming home, how's things going? Well, my cup's pretty full today. And what we mean is if the cup is full, might only need a few drops of something and everything spills out, right? So it's not a justification for wrong behavior, but for us it's a helpful tool for self-awareness. Right, I've got a lot going on right now, and so it helps me name that and be aware of it. And it also helps one another know, right, that maybe if I react, maybe overreact or react too strongly in a way here, it's not about you, it's really about what's going on in me. And so we use that full cup language, and that's definitely what happened at the airport. But if we take that analogy a little bit further and connect this to hurry, right, imagine it was like a literal cup. So you're holding a literal cup filled to the brim. The only way to not spill over is to walk incredibly slow and deliberately, right? If you're in a hurry and rushing around, the cup doesn't need to be half full before stuff starts spilling out, right? And I think that's kind of the role that hurry has on us. It brings stuff up a lot quicker to the surface. And this was actually kind of backed up in a pretty famous psychology study of the Good Samaritan experiment. So it was in, I believe, the late 70s. It was at Princeton. And what they did was they got a bunch of seminary students, right? So these are people studying to be priests and pastors, and they invited them to come and participate in a research experiment. And so the seminary students came one at a time. They didn't know each other were going through this, and they answered some questions, and then part of the experiment was they were supposed to put a message together. They're supposed to put a talk together on the parable of the Good Samaritan. Okay, so hopefully you all know it, but if not, it's a story that Jesus tells where someone is really hurt and injured and in need on the side of the road, and 2 religious people pass them by, but a third person, a Samaritan, stops and helps in pretty extravagant ways, right? The Good Samaritan. So that's the story that they're putting a message together with. And then at the end of their time together, the seminary students are told, hey, you need to actually give this message at the clear other side of campus. So some of them are told, hey, you've got plenty of time, plenty of time to spare, don't worry about it, it's just there later in the day. Another group is told, hey, you have just enough time to make it. And then a third group is told, I'm sorry, it's already late, we're already late, you got to hightail it over there, right? And this is sort of like pre-cell phones, there's no way to really corroborate, so this is what they're thinking. So unbeknownst to the seminary students, the researchers staged the parable. They had somebody in distress and in need laying in a hallway that every single student was going to have to walk past. And it was a narrow enough hallway that in order to walk past the person, they would actually have to step over them, okay? And what the results found was probably what you can expect at this point. The group that had plenty of time, about three-quarters of them stopped to help this person. The group that had just enough time, it was a little less than half, stopped to help the person. The group that was in a hurry, they were late, they were rushing, only about 10% stopped to help the person. All right? So all things being equal, right? These are people studying to be priests and pastors. These are people that have committed their lives to Jesus and espousing and following Jesus' ethics. This is people that were already primed to think about the parable of the Good Samaritan, right, that they've already been working on to give this message. And yet, the radically different responses have nothing to do with values and desires and what's fresh in their mind, and has far more to do with how rushed and hurried they were. Right? Hurry can keep us from really living out our values. That's what I think that pace of life, the pace at which we live our life, is a form of violence to the other. We don't try to do it. It's not a thing that we're intending to do, but it can cause harm to those around us without us realizing it. That makes me wonder about Jesus. Was Jesus ever in a hurry? Right? There's plenty of times he had full days, plenty of times that he had agendas, places to be. But I don't know. I don't know if I would say it's an interesting question to ponder, something to study. Was Jesus ever in a hurry? Those passages that were read at the beginning, they're all about people trying to keep Jesus from being interrupted, right? Or in the Martha and Mary situation, to make Mary help out more, right? Jesus, if you read on to those stories, seems to welcome the interruption. Right? The disciples say, keep the children away. He says, let the children come to me. The disciples tell the blind Bartimaeus to be quiet, and Jesus says, no, come here. What do you want? Jesus seems to live with a kind of holy interruptibility. And maybe that's a good tool for us to think about in our life. We might live fast-paced lives, but how we know whether we're in a hurry or not might have more to do with the amount of interruptions we can handle. How do we respond to somebody when they interrupt us? Might be correlated to how fast we're living our lives, but it might just be more of an internal thing. And so I hope and pray for us as we're together as a church, as we're trying to learn love, as we're trying to learn love like Jesus, that maybe we can look internally, we could be more aware of the internal hurry and hurriedness that happens in our life. And maybe we can get to a place where we can practice a little holy interruptibility ourselves. Amen? So we're going to close our service today by taking communion. So if you've never been here before, everybody is welcome to take it. You're also welcome to stay in your seats if you like. That is completely up to you, but everybody is welcome at the table. So in a moment, we'll invite you to stand, and you'll get dismissed from the back rows. Come down the middle, peel off to the side, grab some of the elements, and come back to your seat. And you can take them at any time, during our final worship song. Right? It's this sacrament, it's this practice. We do it every week. It's this, Jesus says, do this in remembrance of me. The bread represents his body broken for us. The juice represents his blood shed for us. But maybe today I would just encourage you to be aware of something we probably take for granted. Right, we get to take communion in this moment. We get to worship in a moment here, and we don't have to worry about whether we're interrupting God. Right, we never ask if God's too busy or has time for us or has something else going on. We might just take for granted that God is just always there, always available, in many ways just waiting for us. So maybe as you participate in communion in this last song, you can take advantage of that moment. That we're never interrupting God. So let's pray. Gracious God, we love and praise you for who you are. That you are a God of love. That you've created out of love. That you've created us out of love. And that you are drawing us more and more into yourself. That you are before us, that you are within us, and that you are ahead of us, growing us all up to be more in your image, to be more like you, to be able to love. I pray that we would experience you in this moment, that you would shape us and draw us to yourself, that we may better reflect you out in the world through our week. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.